Amu Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah, who is Yahusha. All esteem to our great King Abba Yahuwah. Shabbat Shalom, beloved family. Shabbat Shalom, Barak Yahuwah, to all the 12 tribes of Yasharal, and to all the Goyim, the other nations that has attached themselves unto us. Ruma Mu Yahuwah. Shabbat Shalom to all of you, Barak Yahuwah. This is Watchman Azariah, who coming to you with this topic that is really needed in these times, because there is this misconception going around about the apostles. Did the apostles agree to disagree? I see quite a few folks misusing the apostles' life and situations to fit their life and their situations or their assemblies and all that stuff, saying we can agree to disagree. But is that the case? Is that the truth? Is that something that we can do in this covenant, in this walk with Yahuwah? So today I will be diving into this so we can get a better understanding and we can get the truth behind the apostles. Did they agree to disagree? What does that mean when we agree to disagree? Can that work with us as Yah's people in this truth, in this covenant? Ruma, Mu, Yahuwah. So, all esteemed to Abba Yahuwah, you definitely know that we're going to be in the book of Acts to the Barak Yahuwah, because we're looking at the Acts. We're focusing on the actions of the apostles. We're focusing on the actions of the apostles, Barak Yahuwah. So, first chapter that we're going to get to is definitely chapter 2, and this is the day of Pentecost. This is the day of Pentecost. Now, Barak Yahuwah, before I even get into this to show you what happened in the scriptures, when we look at agree to disagree, what does that mean? What does that say to you? Now, when one says, oh, we don't have to all agree on everything, we can agree to disagree. So basically, what one is trying to say is, in regards to the scripture, we don't have to all agree on the scriptures, but we can still get along. We can still fellowship. Is that the case, though? Now, let's say, Barak Yahuwah, you believe his name is not Yahusha. You believe his name is JC or Yeshua or YAHUAH'S. I believe it's Yahusha. You believe it's JC or Yeshua or YAHUAH'S. I believe it's Yahusha. Can we get along? Can we agree? Now, one of us is holding the truth. One of us is not holding the truth. No, but one of us holding the truth and the other not holding the truth. That's truth with lies. Can truth and lies fellowship together? Can light and dark mix? No, we know that light and dark does not mix. Righteousness and unrighteousness does not mix either. It's either you're righteous or you're unrighteous. It can't be both. So truth and lies, it doesn't work either. Truth and lies does not work. And that's what people are saying with this agree to disagree stuff. That, all right, you might say he's Yahusha. I believe he's JC, but we can still get along because we're still talking about the same person. Are we though? Are we talking about the same person? No, we're not. We're not talking about the same person because his name is Yahusha. His name doesn't change. And that's the truth for back then, that's the truth today, and that's the truth forevermore. No, JC, we already know who that false mighty one is. So that's not going to work. All right, let's just say then, all right, we both agree that his name is Yahusha. But when it comes on to some part of the script, this is where we have the disagreement. Now, you believe in circumcision of the flesh. I don't believe in circumcision of the flesh. Can we agree to disagree? Can we fellowship? Can we get along? That's going to be a battle right there, a strife right there, because you believe circumcision should be done. I don't believe it should be done. So you're going to tell people that it should be done. I'm going to tell people that it should not be done. So no, someone who's listening to both of us, they're caught in the middle of this circumcision, uncircumcision. Which should they believe? Which is right? Which is okay? Which isn't? Is what I'm trying to say. You're going to be promoting two different doctrines. It can't be both. It has to be one or the other. Can't be both. Another thing that you can look at as well. You believe the day starts at sunrise. I believe the day starts at sundown. Or let's say you worship or keep the Shabbat on sunrise. I keep the Shabbat or start the Shabbat on sundown. We're going to have a situation because when we should all come together, you're going to say, no, it's not the Shabbat, it's not the start. So you're not going to show up. You're not going to come. And then I'm going to tell you, you're defiling the Shabbat day because you're saying it's not. You get what I'm saying? It won't work. This agree to disagree. When you look into it, it won't work. The only way this will work is if you give up. Someone has to give up what they hold. There has to be some compromise in this for this to work. Has to be some compromisation that has to take place for us to fellowship, for us to get along. It's not going to work. Now, when we look at the apostles, did we see this? Did some believe this and some believe others? And did they all get along? Let's find out. Barak Yahuwah. Now, it says in verse 1, and when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. So you see, they're not in two places. One doesn't believe, oh no, it's not the day of Pentecost. The day of Pentecost is on another day. Or the day of Pentecost is here. You get what I'm saying? Because I see this as well in the truth. Not only with the Shabbat day, because we have, debates going on whether this day is the Shabbat day or that should be the Shabbat day. The Shabbat day starts at sunrise, the Shabbat day starts at evening. The feast days is this time, the feast days is that time. You get what I'm saying? You have all this confusion going on, all these different doctrines going on. But the apostles, as you all can see, this is not my own word, they were all in one accord, in one place, one time, one feast, not two separate feasts. So when we look at the apostles' account right here on one of the feast days, they were all in one place, and we know that was the same thing when Yahusha was walking the earth. When Yahuwah was walking the earth, and he was doing the feast of Pesach, they were all in one place. They were all keeping the feast together. There wasn't any apostle that said, "Nah, Master, I don't believe this is the Pesach day. The Pesach day is here," and they didn't show up to keep it with him. They all came to keep it with him. When it was the Shabbat, they all showed up to Yahusha and kept the Shabbat. They all showed up to the assembly. They all showed up to assemble together and keep the Shabbat and study and fellowship. You don't see different feast days or Shabbats keeping and some over here, some over there, and all the stuff. You don't see that with the disciples and the apostles. So how did that come about? It came about because of persons who are being used by the enemy, wolves that are in sheep clothing, that goes around teaching these false doctrines and trying to get us to come astray, come away from Yahuwah. This is how it came about. Those who are not taught by Yahuwah are unstable. They're the ones twisting Yah's words. Even Peter said that in 2 Peter 3:15-16. Peter says, I know some of Paul's letters are a bit hard to understand, and those who are untaught, not taught by Yahuwah, and unstable, do twist his letters. And Peter even says they also do the same thing with the other parts of scriptures, with the rest of the scriptures. They twist it. Why? They twist it to fit their narrative, their motive. So this is why this all came about. Hashatan did this. Hashatan is the one twisting the scriptures, because all he wants us to do is go astray from Yahuwah. That's his main goal and objective. Remember, he did this with Yahusha in Matthew 4. He was twisting the script just to get Yahusha to kill himself. He did this. So this is the reason why. And in 1 Timothy 4, verse 1, Yahuwah told us through Timothy that there shall be some that shall depart from the faith, giving in to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. And that's what's happening today. Now, you will have some persons that will give you some, doctrine, and they can't give you any scripture or any foundation to back that up, to support what they're saying. All they ask you, like, is the Torah done away with? No, it's not done away with. So it's okay. Now, if we go down to verse 38, Barak Yahuwah, because remember, during this instance, they received the different languages. They received the Ruach Hadash, and the Ru gave them utterance to speak in different languages, different tongues, not gibberish, not gibberish, not that Sienity gibberish nonsense. That's nonsense. That's witchcraft. That's this demonic tongue, demonic language. Don't let anyone trick you or deceive you or fool you into believing that tongues is gibberish, tongues is unknown. Tongues is not unknown. It's only unknown if you or anyone else don't know it. It's unknown. I'm speaking in Russian right now. You don't know Russian. Then what I'm speaking and saying is unknown to you. That's what First Corinthians 14 means. That's why Paul says you need a translator. You need someone to interpret the language, what you're saying in that language. You speak Chinese, I speak English. We need an interpreter that can both speak English and Chinese. So when you're speaking in Chinese, the interpreter is going to tell me what you're saying. Then I'm going to speak in English, then he's going to tell you what I'm saying in your language, in your tongue. So if you look at right here, when they began to speak with other tongues, notice it says with other tongues, as the rule gave them utterance. And then the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them in his own language. I don't know how CIT came to believe in this is unknown gibberish. How did they skip over Acts 2 and went to 1 Corinthians 14? I mean, I see people do that all the time, going to Paul's letters, making it seem as if Paul is Yahuwah. Paul was one of them. Paul's letters got twisted. You cannot base your doctrines or belief off Paul's letters only. Because he was one of them and he came to Yahuwah's side, them, the wicked, they saw it as betrayal. They saw Paul betraying them. And because of that, they tried to make it seem as if Paul was not righteous, was not pure. So they tampered with his letters. So a lot of the things that we have now today, Paul didn't say it. Paul did not originally say these stuff, because we see some places in Paul's letters that it seems to go against Torah. It seems like he's telling you to go against Torah, like the Torah is done away with. But we know Paul was not like that. It's the elites, it's the Greeks that got betrayed, that felt hurt by Paul's decision. They tried to make him look wrong, awful. So they are trying to frame Paul. That's what the enemy always does. He always tries to frame you. Whenever you try to walk in truth, whenever you try to expose, the rules or anything, they always try to frame you. So you cannot base your belief off Paul's letters only. Paul does not have the final say. Yahuwah does. Line upon line, precept upon precept upon precept. No, right here, it's quite clear. It's quite clear. It says that every man heard them speak in their own language. So imagine if we were there back in those days, we would hear some speaking in English. We would hear some speaking in Spanish, some speaking in Japanese, some speaking in Chinese, Russian, German, all these different languages. That's what this meant. Halal huyah. Now let's jump down to verse 38. Because Kapat was, doing his sermon right here, bringing the message to the people. No, it says that when they heard what he was saying, they were pricked in their hearts and said to Kappa and to the rest of the apostles, males and brethren, what shall we do? Then Kappa said unto them, repent, turn. The Hebrew word for this is shub, S-H-U-B, which means to turn back to Yahuwah. It's an action. Repent, turn, and be immersed, every one of you, in the name of Yahuwah Yahusha, for the remission of your crimes, and you shall receive the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh. For the promises unto you and to your children, and to all that are afar off, even as much as Yahuwah Eloheinu, our mighty one, shall call. And with much other words did he testify and exhort, saying, redeem yourselves from this perverse nation. Then they that gladly received his word were immersed. So you see, not everyone, because it didn't say everyone received his word. It says they that gladly received it. Why? Some rejected it. Much are called, few are chosen. Always remember that. We will not everyone on earth will be redeemed. And most of the time, it's not who we want as well. Who we really want, some of the times they don't get it. They don't receive it. So who gladly received it, they were immersed. And the same year, there were added unto them about 3,000 souls. Remember the time Yahusha asked Peter 3 times if he loved him? And look at it, 3,000 souls. Rumamu Yahuwah. And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine. See, they didn't even got immersed and went off on their own, because this is something as well I see people do a lot in this walk. They will get immersed and just go by themselves. And then they will use scriptures to say, oh, I don't need no man to teach me. The Ruach Hadash shall teach me all things. If that's the case, then why did Yahusha told Peter to look after his sheep, to feed his lambs, to look after his sheep? Why did Yahusha tell them in Matthew 28 to go and to teach them? You know why? Because Yahusha knows we are babes. We need guidance. Babes need to be taken care of. There's no baby that borns and can feed themselves. No baby comes out of a womb and it's like, oh, hey, I'm a baby. I'm okay. I can feed myself. I can cook my own meals. I can change my diapers and do all that stuff. No, there's someone that has to look after them, that has to take care of them. And throughout scripture, throughout history, we have always seen that. We have always seen Yahuwah appointed leaders, prophets, judges, and apostles and all the stuff to look after his people, his flock. So this is another thing that people do wrong when coming into the truth. And I see people do it and go astray and start to go into some doctrines, go into some books and start to promote witchcraft and telling you, oh, it's okay to use crystals and all this nonsense and all that foolishness. It's very dangerous to go by yourself, especially as a newcomer, as a babe. When I came into the truth, I wasn't by myself. Yahuwah led me to Yeshai. And he told me to stick with him. That's his order. That's his principle. That's how Yahuwah works. Yes, there might be time where Yahuwah will get a one-on-one with you, but he's not going to tell you to walk away from the assembly or not be a part of someone that he has taught to lead you into truth. So you need to find that. The enemy is the one that loves to isolate. The enemy is the one that loves to separate. Why? Because it's easier for him to get to you, for him to trick you. Remember Hua, she was by herself. She wasn't there. He could have waited until they were both together and approach him, but no. Yahuwah says, one shall chase 1,000, two put 10,000 to flight. Two are better than one. So the best way to eliminate is to take them out one by one. And that's what he did. So as you see here, right here, it says after they got immersed, they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, and in breaking of bread, and in Paul's prayers. This is not my own words, because people like to say I'm adding to the script or whatever. I'm making sure you all see it. This is why I always put the scriptures on the screen. I don't show my face. I'm not a fan of showing face pictures, that nonsense. I always show the scriptures because I don't want anyone to say I'm adding to Yah's word or I'm taking away. Here it is for yourself. Now, verse 43. And fear came upon every soul, and much wonders and signs were done by the apostles. And all that believe were together. All that believe were together. Believe what? They believe the truth. They believe the Torah. They believe the doctrines that they were under. They were all keeping the Shabbat the same time. They were all keeping the feast days the same times. Everything one in oneness. No division. Listen to this next part. And had all things common. Yes, I understand that we will not agree on everything, because you might like chicken, I might not like chicken. You might like fish. I might not like fish. I might like beef. You might not like beef. But when it comes down to the word of Yahuwah, his word is final. That's the final word. This is where now we got to agree. If we can't agree, then guess what? We cannot walk. And I'm going to show you that scripture as well. That's Amos 3. We're going to read it shortly. Because Yahuwah says, how can two walk? In order for them to walk, they must walk. They must agree. If you don't agree, we're not going to walk. Are you walking with the devil right now? No, because you don't agree to what the devil is doing. You don't agree to unrighteousness, to lawlessness, and all this nonsense. So you don't walk with anyone that walk that way, that walk that path. You don't fellowship with anyone that walk that path. When you were in the world, did you walk with people that were in religion? No, because you didn't agree at the time. You wanted to do things your way. So you surround yourself with people who are like you. If you are a party goer, you have friends that love parties. If you are the type that doesn't love parties, then you surround yourself with people who don't like parties. If you are the type of person that loves to go wild and out, you find yourselves with people that loves to go wild and out. If you're a type of person that likes to be reserved, quiet, stay in homes, go out occasionally, that's who you surround yourself with. So they had all things in common. Verse 45. And they sold their possessions. They sold their possessions and their belongings, because I don't want to say G-O-O-D, because it's from the name of a mighty one, G-A-D, and parted them to all the people, as every man had need. So they looked out for each other. They looked out for Yasharal, because that's what we're supposed to do. And they continued daily with one accord. Again, you see it again. Look at it. How much time have we seen this? With one accord in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, did eat their meat with gladness and singleness of heart, praising Yahuwah, having favor with all the people, and Yah added to the called out assembly daily, such as should be delivered or redeemed. Barak Yahuwah. So we see that these people were all together in one accord, one mind, singleness of heart. Rumamu Yahuwah. There was no division, it was just oneness. Now let's jump to Acts 4. Let's go to chapter 4. And let's go down to verse 31 real quick. And I'm going to show you it again. It says this. Now, verse 31. And when they prayed, the place was shaken where they were assembled together. And they were filled with the Ruach Hadash, and they spoke the word of Yahuwah with boldness. Now, this is where, in the fewer verses up, Kappa, they were threatened by the high council. They were threatened by, the Pharisees, Sadducees, and all these people, the Greeks that were against Yahuwah, Yahusha. They were threatened not to preach, teach in the name of Yahuwah, Yahusha anymore. But they refused. They said they cannot obey them. Whether it's right to obey them more than to obey Yah, they cannot do so. They cannot stop talking about Yahuwah, Yahusha. I mean, it's hard to not talk about Yahuwah, Yahusha. For those who have the heart for Yahuwah, it's hard to not talk about him. I mean, you talk about him every single day. That's what the Dabarim says. And you shall speak of this when you lie down, when you rise up, when you walk it by the way, when you're in your house, when you're sitting down. It's hard not to talk about Yahuwah, Yahusha. So when they got released, they went back to the assembly and they told the assembly what had happened, the threats that they got. And then they prayed to Yahuwah for more boldness. And now Yahuwah granted them that boldness so that they could speak the word of Yahuwah that way without fear. Why? Because Yah did not give us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of self-control, or sound mind. Verse 32, and the multitude of them that believed were of one heart and of one soul. We're of one heart and of one soul. Why? Because it's one body, different body parts. Some of you are the fingers, some are the hands, some are the toes, some are the feet, some are the knee. one body, but it's still one body. Neither said any of them that aught of the things which he had possessed was his own, but they had all things in common. So you see, even those who had possessions, they looked out for those who didn't. Because that's love. That's a part of love. Love, we're supposed to love in truth and in deed. Some people only love in deed, but not in truth. So if you're not loving in truth and in deed, you're not loving at all. So they were all together in one heart, one soul. Ruma, Mu, Yahuwah. Look at that. So still, we haven't seen any agree to disagree. All no, we haven't seen that. Now, let's jump to one of their challenges that they had, from Yahusha's time. What was one of their challenges? The Gentiles. The Gentiles was one of their struggles and challenges. Ruma, Mu, Yahuwah. Now, we're going to read Acts 10 and we're going to read Acts 11. Just like from verse 1 to 19 of Acts 11, not all of it. Because this is where Kappa got the dream about the animals. And this is where XGNs will use these few verses to rightly judge eating pork or shellfish or any of that stuff without reading the whole context of this chapter. So we're going to show you the context and the very next chapter that speaks with it. Was that the case? Was Yahuwah telling Peter to eat pork and shellfish, all these unclean animals? Let's find out. Now, there was a certain man, this should be an S. So this would be an S. And then you see a C by itself, it would normally be an S. It would be the Sama. So this would be Sarya, called Cornelius, a centurion of the band, called the Italian band, a devout man, and one that feared Yah, that reverenced Yah with all his hosts, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to Yah always. Now he saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, a messenger of Yahuwah coming into him and saying to him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Adonai, or my master? And he said unto him, Your prayers and your alms are come up for a memorial before Yahuwah. And no, send meals to Yapu and call for one Shimeon, whose surname is Kappa. He lodged with one Shimeon, a tanner, whose house is by the seaside. He shall tell you what you ought to do. And when the messenger which spoke unto Cornelius was departed, he called 2 of his household servants, and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. And when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Yapu. This was the place, a city. Now, on the morrow, as they went on their journey, they and drew nigh unto the city, Kappa went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. So this was about midday. The 6th hour was midday. The 9th hour was 3 p.m. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance. So he went up on the housetop to pray, but he became very hungry and he would have eaten, but the people downstairs, they were preparing the food, the meal. It wasn't ready yet. So while he was, there praying, he fell into a trance, a vision. And then he saw the heaven opened up and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the 4 corners. You always hear about 4 corners because of the 4 corners of the earth, and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts on the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Kappa, kill and eat. But Kappa said, Not so, my master, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spoke unto him again the second time, and said, What Yah has cleansed, that call not common. Do not call common, right? This was done 3 times, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. So this was done thrice, 3 times. Note, mark this: 3 times it was done. Three. And we're going to show you why he did this 3 times. Now, right here is where most would stop, right at verse 15. Especially those in CNT I'm talking about. This is where they would stop and say, see, the Most High told him to eat. The Most High told him to not call it unclean, so we can eat. And they will stop right here. But let's continue. Because again, as I said, this was done 3 times. No, why was it done 3 times? And it never showed that Kapat eat it in his vision or dream. Do you want to show proof? Let's go down to verse 17. Now, while Kapat doubted, see, he doubted. He wasn't even sure, like he didn't even know what this vision mean. He doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean. Because he knew Yahuwah could never be telling him to eat unclean animal. So it must have meant something else. It's just like in Revelation when John saw the beast coming out of the sea. Does that mean an actual beast is going to come out of the sea in the last days? No, if you notice, the messenger interpreted that vision, that dream. This is why we need to get interpretations for all our visions, all our dreams. Because some dreams, some visions that we get are not always of Yahuwah. Some are of the enemy. And then the dreams and visions that we get from Yahuwah, it might seem literal, but most of the times we need interpretation. Because if we just take it as it is, what if Kappa had taken this dream or vision as it is? Then he would have went and eat pork and unclean animals. But he knew that's not what the dream meant. It meant something else. So now we got to seek Yahuwah for the interpretation. We saw that with Joseph during Pharaoh's time. We saw that with Daniel during Nebuchadnezzar's time. Hallelujah. So while he was there wondering, what does this dream mean? Behold, the males which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simeon's house and stood before the gate, and called and asked whether Simeon, which was surnamed Kappa, was lodged there. And while Kappa thought on the vision, the rule said unto him, Behold, 3 males seek you. 3 males seek you. Remember, this happened 3 times in the dream. And then 3 males are seeking him. Now remember, Cornelius sent 3 males, right? 2 servants and a guard and a soldier. So that's 3. And that's why Yahuwah showed him the sheaves coming down 3 times. It represented these 3 males who were what? They were Gentiles. So Yahuwah knew that he had to do this, or else Kappa Peter would have not went with them. So that's why he says, who I have cleansed, do not call unclean. So he's letting Peter and the apostles know, I have cleansed the Gentiles. Why? Because the Gentiles have turned their hearts to Yahuwah. So this is why even today, we should not push any away. I see these Hebrews on the corner telling people about only the Hebrews, the blacks are going to make it in. The whites will not make it in. That's a false doctrine, and that's a lie. Don't believe it. Don't listen to them. Now, verse 20, listen to what he says. Arise, therefore, and get down and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. And remember in the dream, he said, arise and eat. There you go. So, verse 21, Kappa went down to the males which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, Behold, I am he who you seek. What is the cause, and where did you come from? And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a righteous man, and one that fears Yah, and of right report among all the nations of the Yahudim, was warned from Yah by a Kadash messenger, to send for you into his house, and to hear words of you. Then he called them in, and lodged them. And on the morrow, Kappa went away with them, and certain brethren from Yapu accompanied him. So some of the males that were in the house with him went with Kappa. Now, when they journeyed out on the morrow after they entered into the city, and Cornelius waited for them and had called together his king's meals and near friends, so his families and friends. And as Kappa was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Kappa took him up, saying, "Stand up, I myself also am a man, don't worship me." And as he talked with him, he went in and found much that were come together. And he said unto them, "You know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Yahudi, a Hebrew, to keep company or to come unto one of another nation. But, but, but Yahuwah showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean." So you see, those in religion, they don't read the rest of this verse, this chapter rather, because it was not telling Peter to eat pork or shellfish. It was telling him what? There it is for yourself. Let me highlight it. Anyone who has eye problems, let me highlight it. There it is for yourself. I'm not even going to say it. There it is for yourself. Read it for yourself. Any man common or unclean. It did not say animal. Does not say animal. Stop listening to these false teachers, these false prophets that claim to be males and devoted females and servants of the Most High when they're not. Teaching you false doctrine, teaching you lies and deception. Now, verse 29. Therefore, I came unto you without gainsaying as soon as I was sent for. As soon as I was sent for. I asked, therefore, for what intent have you sent for me? And Cornelius said, 4 days ago I was fasting until this hour. And at the ninth hour I prayed in my house, and behold, a man stood before me in bright clothing, and said, Cornelius, your prayer is heard, and your alms are had in remembrance in the sight of Yahuwah. Send therefore to Yahu and call here Shimeon, who is Kappa, whose surname is Kappa. He is lodged in the house of one Shimeon, a tanner by the seaside, whom shall, when he comes, he shall speak unto you. So immediately, therefore, I sent to you, and you have well done that you have come. Now, therefore, are we all here present before Yah to hear all the things that are commanded of Yahuwah? Then Kappa opened his mouth and said, Of a truth, I perceive that Yah is no respecter of persons. But in every nation, he that fears him, he that reverence him, and works righteousness is accepted. He that reverence him, fears him, and works righteousness is accepted. The word which Yahuwah sent unto the children of Yasharal, preaching Shalom by Yahushua Mashiach, he is Yahuwah of all. He is Yahuwah of all. Yahuwah is Ahad, he is one. Yahusha is Yahuwah, Rumamu Yahuwah. That word I say, you know, which was published throughout all Yehuda, Judea, and began from Galilee after the immersion which Yahuanan preached, who they falsely called John the Baptist. How Yahuwah anointed Yahusha of Nazareth with the Ruach Hadash, with power, who went about doing right and healing all that were oppressed of the devil, for Yah was with him, or Yah was within him, through Mamu Yahuwah. And we are witnesses of all things which he did both in the land of the Yahudim and in Jerusalem, whom they slew and hung on a tree. Curses every man that hangs on a tree. Barak Yahuwah. Him Yahuwah raised up the third day and showed him openly, not to all the people, but unto witnesses chosen before Yahuwah, even to us who did eat and drink with him after he rose from the dead. And he commanded us to preach unto the people and to testify that it is he which was ordained of Yahuwah to be the judge of the quick and dead. To him give all the prophets witness that through his name whosoever believes in him should have receive remission of crime. Now while Kappa yet spoke these words, the Ruach Hadash fell on all of them which heard the word. The Ruach fell on all of them which heard the word. And they of the circumcision which believe were astonished, as much as came with Kappa, those who came with Kappa, because that on the other people also was poured out the gift of the Ruach HaKadosh. Wow. And remember, this was even before, this was right during Kappa was talking to them. Right when he was talking to them, this happened. For they heard them speak with tongues, other languages, and magnify Yah. Then answered Kappa, can any man forbid water that these should not be immersed, which have received the Ruach HaKadosh as well as we? And he commanded them to be immersed in the name of Adonai Yahusha HaMashiach. Then they prayed him to stay for certain days. So this was even before they got immersed, because of their hearts, the belief, the amunah, the faith that they had in Yahuwah. Man, Ruma Mu Yahuwah. Now let's jump over to Acts 11 and see what happens here, because this is where we're going to have altercation, a disagreement with the apostles. Now, Acts chapter 11, verse 1, and the apostles and brethren that were in Yehuda, they heard that the other people had also received the word of Yahuwah. And when Kappa was come up to Jerusalem, they that were of the circumcision contended with him, saying, you went into meals uncircumcised and did eat with them. You went unto uncircumcised meals and eat with them. But Kappa rehearsed the matter from the beginning and expounded it by order unto them, saying, he was in the city of Yahu when he saw a vision. And in the vision, we already know the vision that he saw and all that stuff. And he told Yahuwah that, and then Yahuwah says, not so, nothing common or unclean as anything or any time entered into my mouth. But the voice answered him again and said, well, Yahuwah has cleansed that you should not call uncommon. And this was done 3 times, and all were drawn up again. And behold, immediately there were 3 meals, 3 times 3 meals that already come up into the house where I was, that was sent from the city unto me. And the Ruach bade me to go with them, not doubting. Moreover, these 6 brethren or brothers accompanied me, and we entered into the man's house, and he showed us how he had seen a messenger in his house, which stood and said to him, send meals to Yahu, and call for Peter, who shall tell you words whereby you and all your host shall be delivered. And as I began to speak, the Ruach HaKadosh fell on them, as it did on us at the beginning. Then I remembered the word of the master, how that he said, Yahuwah not indeed immersed with water, but you shall be immersed with the Ruach HaKadosh. For as much then as Yahuwah gave them the like gift as he did unto us who believed on Adonai Yahusha Mashiach, what was I that I could withstand Yahuwah? So he's basically saying, who am I to withstand Yahuwah? Now, when they heard these things, they held their shalom and esteemed Yahuwah, saying, then as Yahuwah also to the other people granted repentance unto life. Wow. So do you see that? At first, when they heard it, that Peter did this, because remember, Peter said this to the Gentiles. You know that it's unlawful for a Yahudi to come onto, the other nations. But Yahuwah showed me in a dream that I should do so. I should not call any man unclean or common. And that's why I came. So when they heard this, they didn't know what happened. They just heard that Peter went to these Gentiles and preached it and eat with them. So they were like, man, what's going on? What's wrong with Peter? Is he out of his mind? Does he know that's against the law? Why did he do so? So as soon as Peter got back, they confronted him about this. Now, when Peter had told them everything that happened, look at what they did. Did they say, "Oh, well, that's your vision, that's your dream. Well, I'm not going to believe that. I'm not going to do that. All right, you do what you want to go." No, they had their shalom and they esteemed Yah. They held their shalom and they esteem Yah. Why? Because it's not what you think, it's not what you feel, it's what Yahuwah says. Yahuwah has the final say. Not you, not what you think, not what you want to believe or whatever. It's what Yahuwah says. Whether you believe it or not, it's the truth at the end of the day, and it's going to stand. Your mind, your decision, whatever you think, will not change Yahuwah's mind. So you either accept it or you don't. It's that simple. Now, they which were scattered abroad upon the persecution that arose about Stephen traveled as far as Pensia or Poncia. I don't know how this would be in the Hebrew because it's kind of like Greek. And Cyprus, Antioch, preaching the word to none, but unto the Yahudim only. So you see, they were only preaching unto the Yahudim only. But when Peter did this, there was a little bit of change. There was a change because this was how they were doing it. They were only preaching to the Yahudims only. So the Gentiles were being neglected. And that's why Yahuwah sent that vision, that dream. So they didn't reject it, they didn't block it. So you see, simple. Have something, you go to the assembly about the matter. You try to get this resolved and seek Yahuwah's word on it. And once Yahuwah gives the final say, show you scriptures, then you let it rest. If you don't want to let it rest, then it's on you. If you want to stay in ignorance, if you want to stay in what you think or what you believe is right, that's on you. Yahuwah says, lean not to our own understanding. In all our ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct our paths. Now, another thing that we saw the apostles did as well, they would even rebuke, correct, because that's a part of love. That's necessary as well to correct. Why? Because remember, we're coming from a place that we were living in ignorance. We were living in darkness. So if Yahuwah doesn't correct us, how will we know what we're doing is wrong? So that's why Yahuwah will correct us, and he will send prophets, leaders, shepherds also to correct us, judges to correct us as well, so that we can know the lifestyle, what we're doing is wrong. Now, if you truly love Yahuwah and have a heart for Yahuwah, then you will receive that correction. Yahuwah says in Proverbs, only a fool despises correction. Only a fool. So right here, let's read real quick. Acts 13, 1-12. Now, they were of the called out assembly that was at Antioch were certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Shimeon, or Barnabas, that were called Niger. And I don't want to say this one because this one is from a mighty one's name as well. So don't want to say it. Please be careful when reading the Renewed Covenant, especially like the books of Acts and Paul's letters, because a lot of these Greek words are derived from mighty one's name. So the names of people and cities, some of them are derived from mighty one's name. So it's best probably not to say it. Just skip over them. So this one, I'm not sure about this one. I think this one might be as well. So I'm just going to skip over these. So these places during these Greek times, which had been brought up with Herod, the Tetara, because this would be an A right here, and this C is silent. And Shaul, or Sha'al rather, because it would be an A as well, which means appointed of Elohim. Shaul is the place for the underworld, the pit. That's why you see the word Sheol. Sheol is Shahul. You would change that E to an A, the O to a U. Shaul. So his name would be Sha'al, the Apostle Paul, as they call him. Now, as they ministered to Yahuwah and fasted, the Ruach Hadash said, separate me, Barnabas and Paul, or Sha'al, for the work I have called them to. And when they had fasted and prayed, and laid their hands on them, they sent them away. So they, being sent forth by the Ruach Hadash, departed unto, I'm not going to say this as well, and from there they sailed unto this place. And when they were at Salamis, they preached the word of Yahuwah in the synagogues of the Yahudim. And they had also Yahuanan to their minister. And when they had gone through the isles of this place, they found a certain sorcerer, a false prophet, a Yahudi. He was a Hebrew, was a Yahudi, whose name was Bar. I don't believe this was Bar Yahusha. It could be more like Bar Yahushua or something else. Barak Yahuwah. But let's look at his name. You guys know him. I don't know why they put it as this. So this one right here, Bar Yahushua, I'm not going to say Yahusha, because Yahusha has the name above all names, Allah Huyah, which was with the deputy of the country. And you know, they did the same thing for Joshua as well. And when you look into the ancient Hebrew Torah, you don't see it there. You see two walls, because Shua, using the ayin or the aleph, can mean two words. Using the ayin, it means to cry out. Using the aleph, it means to blot out or to be veiled. So Yahushua with the ayin means to cry out to Yah for assistance, for rescue, to cry out for Yah for rescue. So that was Joshua's name. Even in the English, look at his name, like they say in the English, Joshua, Yahushua. He was not Yahusha. So that's another tampering that they did with the scriptures. Yes, they will show you places in the Greeks and all that stuff, but don't really focus on that. Seek it out for yourself and you will see. So, which was the deputy of the country of this place, a prudent man who called for Barnabas and Sha'al and desired to hear the word of Yahuwah. But Alehmas, the sorcerer, for so his name by interpretation, withstood them, seeking to turn away the deputy from the faith. Then Sha'al, who also is called Paul or Paul, filled with the Ruach Hadash, laid eyes on him and said, O full of all subtlety, and all mischief, you child of the devil, you enemy of all righteousness, will you not cease to pervert the right ways of Yahuwah? Now look at this. Now can you imagine me saying this to someone today? The names that I would be called. I remember I did this, called someone a witch, and I was attacked. I have no proof, this and that, and all this stuff. Oh, I'm self-righteous, all this nonsense. Why? Because people don't discern. They forget the scripts where Yahuwah says, he sent us out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. There are wolves in sheep clothing. One thing we got to understand and know, witches and warlocks, they don't only fly brooms. They don't only fly around on brooms, wear black hats and all that stuff. Trust me. They wear zeets. They wear zeets. They do feast days. They even call on the name of Yah and all that stuff. So you got to be careful out here. Remember, it says that Hashatan, he disguised himself as a messenger, as life. So he's imitating Yahuwah. For those who had read the book of Adam and Hua, we see the same thing in the book of Adam and Hua, where Hashatan would transform himself and try to make himself seem as if he's Yahuwah, or he's a high-ranking messenger sent by Yahuwah. So you got to be careful in this walk. Not because a person calls on the name of Yahuwah, Yahusha, it doesn't mean they're really off Yahuwah. That's why Yahuwah says, by their fruits you shall know them. Yahuwah says, believe not every spirit, but test the spirit, try the spirit. So you got to be careful. So if you notice, one thing that they did, they also give harsh rebukes. Now, if you should do this today, you'd be considered harsh or rude or all this nonsense today. But that's your flesh reacting. That's the flesh that will see it that way. The flesh will be hurt by the rebuke because the flesh does not want to be corrected. Remember, it is said that the flesh warred against the spirit. The flesh does not want to subject unto Yahuwah. The flesh does not want to be corrected. The flesh wants to do things its way whenever it wants. And that's being influenced by Hashatan. Hashatan is the one manipulating our flesh. So when we give in to our flesh, we're giving in to Hashatan. Whether you like it or not, that's the truth. That's why Yahuwah tells us to not lean to our own understanding, because our own understanding is really not of us, it's really of the enemy. It's the enemy influencing the fleshly understanding, the fleshly mind. That's why some people cannot understand or see or comprehend how can Yahuwah be Yahusha. They can't see it because they're leaning to their own understanding. They're not seeking Yahuwah for this mystery. So imagine today, this was today's life, and Sha'al was here, and Sha'al said this to someone. Man, so you see, it's nothing new. It's just the truth at the end of the day. So, verse 11, and now behold, the hand of Yahuwah is upon you, and you shall be blind. Look at that. He even got the man blind. I'm telling you, this generation today is soft. As soon as you correct someone, oh, you hear all these things. You see a different side to them. This generation is soft compared to back in the day, compared to Yahuwah's prophets' times and the apostles' time. This generation is soft. But it's just what it is. We're in the final days. Yahuwah says, in these last years, they're going to call evil right and right evil and all this nonsense. So they're calling light darkness, darkness light. So it's just where people are turning their ears away from hearing the truth. They're turning away from the belief. So there's nothing surprising to me anyways. Barak Yahuwah. No, after he did that, Harsha rebuked him, because this was a very harsh rebuke. Very, very harsh. Let me highlight. He also did what? He also says, no, the hand of Yahuwah is upon you, and you shall be blind, not seeing the sun for a season. And immediately there fell on him a mist and a darkness, and he went about seeking someone to lead him by the hand. Now remember, he was a false prophet, but he was pretending to be a prophet of the Most High. That's why it says he was a false prophet, a sorcerer. And he was also what? The scripture said he was a Yahudi. Let me go back and show you, because I don't want anyone to say I'm adding to the word. There you go. Right here, verse 6. He was a certain sorcerer, a false prophet, meaning he would give prophecies, but they would be false. He was a Yahudi. There you go. If his name, look at his name had Yah in it. Don't be fooled, people, in these last days. Not everyone running around calling on the name of Yahuwah, Yahusha, is of Yahuwah. Yahuwah did tell us that in the book of Matthew. He says, not everyone that says, Master, Master, shall make it into the Shamayim. He says, some will come unto that day and said, but Master, didn't we done this in your name, cast out devils in your name, did much signs and wonders in your name? And he's going to say to them, get away from me. I know you not. We had no relationship. I don't know you. We saw the 7 sons of Sceva did the same thing. They took the name of Yahusha and Paul's name and trying to use it to do casting out of devils, even though they were overpowered. But the thing is, Hashatan will have his puppets out here that will use the name. They're working together, hand in hand. So be careful in these last days, everyone. These witches and warlocks are disguised as messengers of truth, messengers of righteousness, and they are not. They are not messengers of truth or righteousness. Now, when the deputy, when he saw this, saw what was done, he believed, and being astonished at the doctrine of Yahuwah. So we saw they gave harsh rebuke. Now, love also comes with correction. Yahuwah says who he loves, he chastens. He's going to correct us. Do you really believe Yahuwah loves us so much and seeing us going astray and not going to say anything because he's worried that we'll be hurt, or he's worried about our feelings and our emotions. Like, I love them, but I don't want to say nothing to them because I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want them to feel as if, too harsh or too this. No, you got to tell them the truth. Because majority of the times we're being influenced by spirits and we don't even realize. So sometimes we need a harsh rebuke to put us back on track, to humble us. I remember when Yahuwah harshly rebuked me, and it humbled me immediately. It was so quick. So sometimes we need that harsh rebuke in our lives to humble us, to keep us on track with Yahuwah. But persons who lean too much to the flesh, they will not receive it. They will not see it that way. So you cannot sit there and worry about how a person will feel if you tell them the truth. Hey, do you know JC is not his name? Man, I don't know if I should tell him this because they're going to call me crazy, or we might never talk again. They might say judgeful or whatever the case may be. Don't worry about that. Do your part. Warn. If the person is off Yahuwah, if the person have a heart for Yahuwah, then they will receive what you're saying. They will receive Yah's word through you. If they're not, then they won't receive it. You have done your part. You have warned. When the day of judgment comes, Yahuwah will show them, listen, I sent you someone to warn you off what you were doing wrong. You didn't listen. So you have no one to blame but yourself. You cannot blame me. I sent someone to warn you. I sent someone to correct you. I tried to show you through dreams. I tried to do this way, that way. You had my word, but you didn't listen. You obeyed your flesh. You obeyed man, which was obeying Hashatan. Once we do things our way, we're doing things Hashatan's way. So don't sit there and worry about how the person is going to take it. Correct the person repents, Barak Yahuwah. If they don't, then so be it. From such, turn away. Yahuwah just shows you who that person is, that their true heart. So now you need to waste no more time on that person. You can go spend that time with someone else who would receive Yah's word. Hallelujah. Now let's jump to Acts 14 real quick. And let's read this real quick. Let me show you something. No, and it came to pass that in this place, I don't know how this would be in the Arboreate, but Iconium, I think this is not I, that they went both together into the synagogue of the Yahudim, and so spoke that a great multitude, both of the Yahudim and also the Yabani, the Greeks, believed. But the unbelieving Yahudim, see, Yah's own people, the unbelieving Yahudim stirred up the other people and made their minds evil, affected against the brethren. Yes, you will have that today. You will have those who don't believe, who don't want to accept the truth. They will try to stir up people around you, stir up those who you're trying to reach, so that they will be turned against you. Anyone who does that shows you their true hearts, who they are. They're not of Yahuwah. Because those are one of the 7 things that Yahuwah hates. That's one of the 7 things that Yahuwah hates. You can find that in Proverbs 6:16 to 19. Yahuwah hates a person or persons who sow discard among the brethren. So anyone who does that is just showing you their heart, who they truly are. So the unbelieving Yahudim, our own people, stirred up the other people and made their minds evil. They corrupted their mind. This is what Yahuwah says. Evil communications corrupt right manners. Yahuwah is not just saying these things to sound poetic. He's telling us, he's preparing us for the things that we're going to face. So you are going to face these things today in the assembly that you are part of or your surrounding. You will face these things. And that's just revealing, that's Yahuwah revealing the person's heart to you. that they are not of him. Walk away. Long time therefore, Ruma Mu Yahuwah, abode they speaking boldly in Yahuwah, which gave testimony unto the word of his grace or Assad, and granted signs and wonders to be done by their hands. But the multitude of the city was divided, and part held with the Yahudim, and part with the apostles. The Yahudim who stirred up strife, we call strife and contingent, who sowed discord. So part of the city was, on their side, and the other parts were with the apostles, Barnabas and Shaul. And when there was an assault made both of the other people and also of the Yahudim with their rulers, to use them despitefully and to stone them, they were aware of it and fled into this place. And this place, this is a place, a city, cities of this place as well, and unto the region that lies round about. And there they preached the Basura. And there sat a certain man at this place, impotent in his feet, being a cripple from his mother's womb, who never had walked. The same heard Shahal spoke or speak, who steadfastly beholding him, and perceiving that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, stand upright on your feet. And he leaped and walked. Ruma Mu Yahuwah. And when the people saw what Sha'al had done, they lifted up their voice, saying, in the speech or in the language, in the tongue of this place, the mighty ones are come down to us in the likeness of mankind, of people. And they call Barnabas Jupiter, and they call Sha'al this one. Remember, these are names of mighty ones. So you see, you got to be careful of these Greek names of places. It's best, if you don't know, it's best not to say it. Best not to say it out of your mouth. Just read and just, skip over it a bit. Why? Because he was the chief speaker. Sha'al was the chief speaker. Then the priest of Dash which was before their city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates, and would have done sacrifice with the people. Now, when the apostles Barnabas and Shahal heard of, they rent their clothes and ran in among the people, crying out and saying, sirs, why do you do these things? We also are mankind of like passions with you, and preach unto you that you should turn from these vanities unto the living Yahuwah, which made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all things that are therein, who in times past suffered all nations to walk in their own ways. Nevertheless, he left not himself without witness, in that he did right and gave us rain from heaven and fruitful season, filling our hearts with food and gladness. And with all these sayings, so scarce restrained they the people, that they had not done sacrifice unto them. And there came a certain Yahudi, man, this English is worded not stupidly at times. A certain Yahudi from this place, who persuaded the people. There came certain Yahudim who persuaded the people, and having stoned Sha'al, drew him out of the city, supposing he had been dead, albeit as the Talmudim, the taught ones, stood round about him, or in other terms, the disciples stood round about him. He rose up and came into the city, and the next day he departed with Barnabas to this place. Wow. Man. So do you see? It's not even the other nations that is sworn to discard. It's Yah's own people. And you're going to experience that in this walk. I have already experienced it. You all are going to experience it. Remember, the first time Yahuwah was ever betrayed was when? Most of you might say, with Judas. That was the first time he was betrayed by the devil. Nope. The first time he was betrayed was in heaven, the Shamayim. When Hashatan, who was once called Halal, he betrayed Yahuwah by instigating a rebellion against Yahuwah and by persuading, misleading some of the messengers to go against Yahuwah. And he was banished from the Shamayim. Then he came to earth and he did the same thing on earth. He got Cain to rebel against Yahuwah and to stir up, strife between him and Abal. He did the same thing with Adam and Hua. And he has continued to do it throughout the generations. During Samuel's time, he got the people to reject Yahuwah. The people said, we want a king that we can see. We want to be like the other nations. When Yahuwah came on earth in Matthew 4, when he was talking, what was he doing? Trying to get him to go against the word. And then through Judas, he betrayed Yahuwah again. So if our ancestors have been through these things, if Yahuwah in the first place, Yahuwah went through this, our ancestors went through it, why don't you think we are going to experience this as well? We're going to face betrayal as well with those closest to us. And I'm talking about those in the truth. I'm not talking about like your family members and that stuff. I'm talking about those who are in the truth with you, who say they are your Ahi and your Ahut, your brothers and your sisters. You're going to experience that betrayal as well. Because if you want to reign with Yahuwah, shouldn't you suffer with him also? Even Paul said this in Galatians 2:20. He says, I am crucified with Mashiach. So if we're crucified with him, that means what he experienced, we should also experience. And he said that out of his own mouth in the book of Matthew. If they call the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more shall they do unto those of his own household? So they're going to call us names the same. They're going to prosecute us the same. Turn against us the same. All these things, we're going to suffer the same as he did. But we will reign in the end with him. Rumamu Yahuwah. So don't worry about the suffering that you're going through. Don't worry about the betrayal that you have experienced. Just give all esteem to Yahuwah, praise Yahuwah that you are counted worthy to go through the same. And know that separation is not a bad thing or an awful thing. Hallelujah. So we saw this happen, and in Amos 3, let's go there real quick, Barak Yahuwah, because I don't want anyone to say I'm adding to. So let's go there real quick, Barak Yahuwah. Here we go. Amos 3, verse 3. Let me highlight it. And there you have it on the screen for yourselves. Can two walk together except they be agreed? So in order for two to walk together, you must agree. If we don't agree, we cannot walk. I don't agree with the J Witnesses doctrine, so I'm not going to walk with them. I'm not going to fellowship with them because I don't agree to their doctrine. I don't agree to the doctrines in Christianity, so I'm not going to fellowship or be a part of Christianity. I don't agree with the Hebrews doctrine promoting that Gentiles cannot make it in, so I'm not going to walk with them or fellowship with them or even be associated with them. I don't believe or agree that Yahuwah is not Yahusha, that he is a Trinity or Trinity. That's a false and pagan doctrine. So I'm not going to support that or walk with that as well. I'm going to try to show you, correct you. But if you don't want to accept it, then that's your choice. We're not going to fellowship. So can two walk except they agree? They must agree in order for them to walk. If they don't agree, they won't walk. It won't work. That's why we couldn't get along in religion, because of our minds, of our hearts. When we saw the doctrines, it didn't make sense to us. That's why we had to walk away from religion, because how can you be in religion promoting, teaching that JC is not his name? You have made a vow, a covenant to an assembly that you're going to declare his name, JC, and promote it and all that stuff. But no, you're not promoting that. You're going against the covenant. You're going against the covenant, the contract that you made with that assembly, the vow that you took. So you're the only one in the assembly saying that's not his name. So while the pastor is trying to teach or preach, you're going to be standing up, JC is not his name. JC is not his name. Yahusha is his name. That won't work. It won't happen. All you're going to have is a big confusion and strife going on. And then what the people are going to do is they're going to push you out. They're going to not allow you to be a part of their assembly or fellowship because you're going to be disruptive. So this is why we had to walk away. Light does not mix fellowship with darkness. So this is something that you need to understand. Separation is not an awful thing. Hallelujah. We are Kadashim. What does Kadashim mean? Separated ones. The Ruach Kadash means the separated spirit. Why is it separated? Because it's not the same as those unclean spirit. We're not the same as those unclean persons. That's why we're separated. We're Kadush, special, unique unto Yahuwah. So he separates us. Hallelujah. So let's jump back to the book of Acts. Let's go to Acts chapter 15 real quick. Let's see another disagreement and let's see how they resolve this. Acts chapter 15. And let's look at another disagreement for Yahuwah. No, in verse 1 it says, and certain males which came down from Yahuda taught the brethren and said, except you be circumcised after the manner of Marsha, you cannot be redeemed. So what they're saying is you must be circumcised of the flesh in order to be redeemed. Now, when Shaul and Barnabas had no small dissensions and disputations with them, they determined that Shaul and Barnabas, so they were, going over the scriptures for a while. So they had determined that Shaul and Barnabas and certain of them who were teaching about, the circumcision of the flesh, that they should go to Jerusalem unto the apostles and the elders about this question. And being brought on their way by the called out assembly, they passed through Phoenicia. I think this is as mighty ones to Salaki Yahuwah. But this one is Shamaroon. I know this is okay to say, Barak Yahuwah. Declaring the conversation of the other people, and they caused great joy unto all the brethren. And when they were come to Jerusalem, they were received of the called out assembly and of the apostles and the elders, and they declared all the things that Yahuwah had done with them. Now, this is another thing as well that I want to highlight real quick. I've heard some, not a whole lot, but I've heard a few people to say Paul was not received of the apostles. The apostles did not receive him. They did not count him as one of them. I've heard of a few persons that have promoted this doctrine, this lie. But right here, as you can see, verse 4, it's not my own words. Right on the screen, we're reading from the Et Sefer Bible. That's where we're reading from. What does verse 4 says? It says that when they came, they were received of the called out assembly and of the apostles and the elders. So whoever is promoting or teaching that nonsense, where do you get that doctrine from? When Acts 15 made it clear that Paul was received of them. Remember, further down, Yahuwah told the apostles to separate Paul and Barnabas for a work that he has for them. So that doctrine, it makes no sense. So you got to be careful of these doctrines out here in Yasharal, in this war today, Yasharal. You got to be careful. Now, verse 5. But there rose up certain of the sect of the Pharisees, which believed, saying that it was needful to circumcise them. The Pharisees, they always show up. It's like today, when you make posts on Facebook or TikTok or YouTube, you always have that one person that always show up in your newsfeed on your post, just ready for a disagreement. It's like they're just sitting on Facebook waiting for you to make a post so that they can jump in the comment sections just to disagree with you. Why? Because they want to cause confusion. They want to cause strife. Hallelujah. So the Pharisees, when they heard it, they were like, yeah, this is our time. This is our opportunity. Let's jump in. So they believed the other Yahudim that says circumcision of the flesh is needed and to command them to guard the Torah of Moshe. And the apostles and the elders came together to consider this matter. And when there had been much disputing, Kappa rose up and said unto them, Males and brethren, you know how that a right decent while ago Yahuwah made choice among us, that the other people by mouth should hear the word of the Besorah and believe. And Yahuwah, which knows the hearts, bore them witness, giving them the Ruach Hadash, even as he did unto us. Now remember, in Acts 11, remember the apostle said to Peter, you went unto those who were uncircumcised. So remember, they weren't circumcised in the flesh, but they received the Ruach Hadash. Aha, Barak Yahuwah. Verse 9, and put no difference between us and them, purifying their hearts by amunah, by faith. Now therefore, why tempt ye Yahuwah to put a yoke upon the neck of the Talmudim, which neither of our fathers nor we were able to bear? But we believe that through Asad, grace, loving kindness of Adonai Yahushua Mashiach, we shall be redeemed, even as they. Then all the multitude kept silence and gave audience to Barnabas and Sha'al rather, declaring what miracles and wonders Yahuwah had wrought among the other people by them. And after they had held their shalom, Jacob answered, saying, Males and brethren, hearken unto me. Shimeon has declared, how Yahuwah at the first did visit the other people, to take out of them a people for his name. And to this agree the words of the prophet, as it is written. After this I will return and will build again the tabernacle of Dawood, which is fallen down. And I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will place it up, that the remnant of the people might seek Yahuwah. And all the other people upon whom my name is called, says Yahuwah, who does all these things. Known unto Yahuwah are all his works from the beginning of the world. Wherefore my sentence is, that we trouble not them which from among the other people that are turned to Yahuwah, but that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols, and from fornication, and from the things strangled, and from blood. For Moshe of old time, as in every city, did he preach that preach him. I'm telling you, English is worded foolishly at times. Being read in the synagogues every Shabbat. So Moshe, he gathered every Shabbat in the synagogue. Every Shabbat they had gathering. Why? Because the Shabbat is a part of the 7 feast days. If you watch the video that I did last week, you will see that Shabbat is the very first feast that was established, that was given unto man. The very first feast that was ever kept by Yahuwah, the messengers, and Adam and Hua. So go back and read Leviticus 23 again, and the first one is the Shabbat. And notice what it says, you're supposed to do what? Have Kadash, assembly, gatherings on the Shabbat. You, Rumamu Yahuwah. So Moshe did this in his time. Every Shabbat, he would gather, and being read in the synagogues, they would go through the scriptures together. They would go through what is right, what is wrong, all the stuff. Hallelujah. And it's the same thing we saw with Yahusha and the apostles. They did the same thing. So we must do the same as well. The Shabbat is not me time where you isolate yourself and go to seek Yahuwah in that time period. Nah. The Shabbat is where you come together with your brothers and sisters, coming together, iron sharpening iron, reading the scriptures, bringing all that you have before Yahuwah, putting it all before Yahuwah. I've seen persons done that as well. Take saying, when the Shabbat, when it comes to the Shabbat, I'm going to take me time. I'm going to do me. Nah, that's not you. It's a feast day. Yahuwah says you're supposed to have Kadash assembly. You obey that command. Hallelujah. Now, verse 22, it says, then it pleased the apostles and the elders with the whole called out assembly to send chosen males of their own company to Antioch with Shaul and Barnabas, namely Yahuda, surnamed Bar Shabbah, and this one right here, Silas. This name is Silas, chief males among the brethren. Now, they wrote books by them after this manner, the apostles and the elders and the brothers, right? And they send greetings unto the brethren, which were of the other people in Antioch and Aram and Cilicia. For as much as we have heard that certain which went out from us have troubled you with words, subverting your souls, saying you must be circumcised and guard the Torah, to whom we gave no such commands. We didn't give any such commands. We didn't tell them that you should be circumcised. No, they weren't sent of us. Verse 25, it seemed right unto us, being assembled with one accord, to send chosen males unto you with our beloved Barnabas and Shaul. See, our beloved Barnabas and Shaul. The apostles made it quite clear. So anyone teaching that doctrine or nonsense that Paul wasn't received of the apostles, you need to stop. You are teaching falsehood and lies. And if you don't, you were warned, and Yahuwah shall deal with you. Hallelujah. Males that have hazard their lives for the name of our Adonai Yahusha HaMashiach. We have sent therefore Yahuda. Yahuda is who? Let me see who this is. We have sent for therefore Yahuda and Silas, who shall also tell you the same things by mouth. Because they might say, well, it could have been Sha'al that write this letter. So that's why they wrote letters, and they sent Yahuda and Silas to confirm it by mouth, so that no one can say, well, it was Sha'al that wrote this letter secretly. And remember, there were also people that were sent of the Yahudim that believe in circumcision of the flesh. So that's three witnesses. You got your own people, you got the letter, and then you got the people of the apostles. That's three witnesses. What more do you need? If you still choose not to believe it, then that's your choice. You see, we can't force people to accept the truth. We just got to share it. If they accept it, Rumamu Yahuwah. If they don't, Rumamu Yahuwah. We continue to move on. For it seemed right to the Ruach Hadash and to us to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessities or necessary things, that you abstain from meats offered to idols, and from blood, and from things strangled, and from fornication, from which if you keep yourselves, you shall do right. Fare ye well. So when they were dismissed, they came to Antioch, and when they had gathered the multitude together, they delivered the letters or the books, which when they had read, they rejoiced for the consolation. And Yehuda and Silas, being prophets also themselves, exhorted the brethren with much words, and confirmed them. And after they had tarried there a space or a time or a while, they were let go in Shalom from the brethren unto the apostles. Notwithstanding, it pleased Silas to abide there still. So Silas wanted to abide, with Shaul and Barnabas. Shaul also and Barnabas continued in Antioch, teaching and preaching the word of Yahuwah with much others also. No, and some days after some days, Shaul said unto Barnabas, let us go again and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of Yahuwah, and see how they're doing. Now Barnabas determined to take with them Yahuda Yahuanan, whose surname was Marcus or Mark, but Sha'al thought it not right to take him with them, who departed from them in this place and went not with them to the work. So because of that, what he did previously, Sha'al didn't want to take him. No, listen to this, everyone. And the contention was so sharp between them that they departed asunder from one the other. And so Barnabas took Mark and Seal unto this place, and Shaul chose Silas and departed, by recommending that the brethren unto the grace of Yahuwah. So you see, the contention was so sharp between them that they departed. They went separate ways. How can two walk unless they agree? You see? So you got to be careful in these time periods. They didn't agree to disagree. We still haven't seen that all. No. They had a contention with the circumcision of the flesh or no circumcision of the flesh. They went to the apostles and the elders about it. The elder says, listen, we're not going to put such burden on you. Look at the other nations. They didn't circumcise their flesh. Did they receive the Ruach HaKodesh or did they not receive it? They received it the same way. So that goes to show you don't need to circumcise your flesh to receive the immersion of the Ruach HaKodesh. So you see, they resolved the matter. They didn't agree to disagree. We still haven't seen that. It's nowhere in the book of Acts. You will find it nowhere. It's either you agree or you don't. And what happens when one doesn't agree? Separation. Look at Sha'al and Barnabas. Because of this disagreement, they separated. Look at when Sha'al and Barnabas was in the city. The people who didn't believe, they did what? Not only did they separate from the apostles, but they tried to instigate a rebellion against the apostles and Yahuwah. No agree to disagree. You will not find it nowhere. I don't know where they came from with this nonsense, with this doctrine, because it's false. And no one should ever believe it. It's a lie. It's because a person doesn't want to change. They don't want to accept the truth. That's why they came up with this doctrine. So say, you know what? Let's agree to disagree. Because they don't want to change. So basically, you want Yah to change. You don't want to change to please Yah. You want Yah to change to please you. That doesn't make any sense. And that will never happen. Now, let's jump to chapter 17, Barak Yahuwah. Now, those who always oppose, they would always cause confusion and strife and rebellion. We saw that previously in, 14, Acts 14. Now we're at Acts chapter 17. Now, verse 1 says, and when they had passed through this place, and this place, this one is also the name of a mighty one, A-P-O, Lamad, O, as you can see. So that's why you got to be careful when reading the renewed covenant, because they transferred it into Greek. And just like in the day of Babylon, most of these people were named after their mighty ones. And the cities also, some were named after mighty ones, some were named after just rulers. So you got to be careful when reading the renewed covenant when you see these Greek names. If you're uncertain, it's best not to say it. So there came to this place, Thessalonica, where was a synagogue of the Yahudim, and Sha'al, as his manner was, went in unto them, and 3 Shabbats reasoned with them out of the scriptures. Now, opening and alleging that a Mashiach must needs have suffered and risen again from the dead, and that this Yahusha whom I preach unto you is a Mashiach, the anointed one. And some of them believed and concerted with Sha'al and Silas. And of the devout Yabani, the devout Greeks, Yabani, the Grecians, the Greeks, as you can see, Yabani means, Yaban means Greek, Yabanim means Greek. So a great multitude, and of the chief females, not a few, but the Yahudim again The Yahudim, notice it's not the Greek, it's not the Gentiles, it's our own people. The Yahudim, which believe not, moved with envy. They moved with envy. You will find that in these time period as well. They moved with envy and took unto them certain fellows of the Basar sort, or Basir sort, and gathered a company. I said Basar because I was changing the E to an A, and gathered a company and placed all the city on an uproar and assaulted the house of Jason or Yakun. This would be Yakun. Wait, this is a C by itself, so this would be an S. So this could be Yasun or Yasan, but this is Jason, and sought to bring them out to the people. And when they found them not, they drew to Jason and certain brethren unto the rulers of the city, crying, these that have turned the world upside down are come here also, whom Jason had received, and all these all do contrary to the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, one Yahusha. And remember, this was the Yahudim that was doing this. This was not the Greeks that were doing this. Remember, this was the Yahudim, Yah's own people that were doing this. So don't be surprised when you see people in the truth do this today. And they troubled the people and the rulers of the city when they heard these things. And when they had taken security of Jason and of the other, they let them go. And the brethren immediately sent away to Shaal and Silas by night unto Berea, who coming there went into the synagogue of the Yahudim. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily, whether those things were so. Therefore, much of them believed. Also of honorable females were with the Yabani, the Greeks, the Yabanim, the Greeks, and of males not a few. But when the Yahudim of Thessalonica had knowledge that the word of Yahuwah was preached of Shahal at the place, they came there also and stirred up the people. Man, do you see they got nothing else to do but to cause strife and to confusion because they're envious. They got nothing else to do. I mean, they're in another place and they left that place and come to this place just to cause confusion and strife. The enemy loves to do that. That's being controlled by the enemy. That's under the influence of the devil. And anyone who does that, that's wickedness. That's wrong. You should not turn the people away from Yahuwah. Anyone who does that, back in the day, you would have been stoned. You would have been stoned for turning Yah's people against him, to idols, unto mighty ones, and all this nonsense. You would have been stoned to death, killed. But today, Yahuwah is only telling you to walk away from them, separate from them. These people are not of Yahuwah. They don't have the Ruach Hadash. That's why when in the book of Matityahu, when one of the, and Luke as well, when one of the disciples came to Yahusha and said, Master, bid me to go and bury my father. And what the Yahusha response was, he said, let the dead bury their own dead. They were alive, but what? They weren't in Yahuwah. So they weren't reborn again. They weren't living. They were like spiritually dead. They didn't have the Ruach Hadash and all the stuff. They were the dry bones that never lived. Barak Yahuwah. And then immediately the brethren sent away Shaal to go, as it were, to the sea. But Silas and Timothy, don't say this part, E-U-S, is the name of a mighty one as well, as you know. Z-E-U-S, we already know who that is. J-E-S-U-S, we already know who that is. So again, you can see they try to name Timothy after this mighty one. So Timothy bode there still, and they that conducted Shaul brought him unto this place. I think this one is the name of a mighty one. I believe it is. I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to have to check again, but I believe it is. And having received a command or commands unto Silas and Timothy for to come to him with speed, they departed. Man. So now while Shaul waited for them at this place, his rule was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. Therefore he disputed in the synagogues with the Yahudim and with the devout persons, and in the market daily with them that met with him. And there are certain philosophers of the Epicureans and of the Stoics encountered him, or Stoics encountered him, and some said, "What will this blabber say?" Do you see how disrespectful they were? Some, he seems to be a placer. I'm not going to say SET because SET is the name of a mighty one. So a placer forward of a strange mighty one or mighty ones, because he preached unto them Yahusha and the resurrection. And they took him and brought him unto, I think this one is the name of a mighty one as well. Yes, it is. It is. It is. So don't say this one as well. So they brought him unto this person, saying, "Might we know what this new doctrine whereof you speak is? For you bring certain strange things unto our ears. We would know therefore what these things mean. For all these people in this place and strangers which were there spent their time in nothing else, but either to tell or to hear some new thing." Then Shaul stood in the midst of Mars, this one is the name of a mighty one, the hill, and said, "You males of this place, I perceive that in all things you engage the worship of devils. For I passed by and behold your devotions. I found an altar with this inscription, to the unknown mighty ones, whom therefore you ignorantly worship. Him declare I unto you, Elohim that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Yah of heaven and earth. He dwells not in temples made with hands, neither is worship with man's hands, as though he needed anything, seeing he gives to all life and breath and all things, and has made of one blood all nations of mankind, for to dwell on all the face of the earth, has determined the times before appointed and the bonds of their habitation, that they should seek Yahuwah, if joyfully, not this word as well, they might feel after him and found him, though he be not far from every one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also of his offspring. For as much then as we are the offspring of Yahuwah, we ought not to think that Yah is like unto gold or silver or stone, graven by art or man's devices. And the times of this ignorance Yahuwah winked at, but no, commands all people everywhere to repent. So this is a script that they love to say, Yah once winked at our ignorance, but now calls all men to repentance. Because he has appointed a day in the which he will judge the world in righteousness, by that man whom he has ordained. Wherefore he has given assurance unto all mankind, in that he is raised from the dead. And when they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some mocked, and others said, we will hear you again of this matter. So Shaul departed from among them, albeit certain males cleave unto him, and believe, among the which was this one, don't say this one as well, a dash, and a woman whose name was this, and others with them. So you will always see the strife going on. So you see, it happened to the apostles, everyone. So it will happen to you. It happened to Yahuwah first in the Shamayim. And we always say, your kingdom come, let your will be done on earth so as it is being done in heaven. So he got betrayed. We also shall be betrayed. So don't find it strange, don't find it new. So this new doctrine to say agree to disagree is just a way to continue to fellowship with people who believe and don't believe. Because they will say to you, oh, well, we're all praying to the same person. It doesn't matter whether you believe his name is Yahusha, Yeshua, YAHUAH'S, Yahushua, Yahshua, JC, and all the stuff. We are all praying to the same mighty one. That's a lie. He does not have much names. So don't believe that nonsense. So you'll see this happen a lot, everyone. You'll see this happen a lot. No, we jump to verse 19. Final scripture that we're going to, verse 19. Let's go down a bit to verse 21. No. So mightily grew the word of Yahuwah and prevailed. And after these things were ended, Shaul and purpose in the rule. And when he had passed through Macedonia and Ahia, so go to Jerusalem, saying, after I have been there, I must also see Rome. And he sent into Macedonia two of them that ministered unto him, Timothy and as Arastus, because this would be an A. But he himself stayed in Asia for a season. And the same time there arose no small stir or strife about the way of Yahuwah. For a certain man whose name was this, a silversmith who made silver shrines for this one, don't say this name, his name is the name of a mighty one, who brought no small gain unto the crossmills, whom he called together with the workmans of like occupation, and said, sirs, you know that by this craft we have our wealth. Moreover, you see and hear that not alone at this place, but also throughout all Asia, this Shaul has persuaded and turned away much people, saying that they be no mighty ones which are made with hands. So that not only this our craft is in danger to be placed at naught, at nothing, but also that the temple of the great mighty one, this woman right here, this demoness, should be despised as well, and her magnificence should be destroyed, whom all Asia and the world worships. And when they heard these sayings, they were full of wrath, and cried out, saying, great is this mighty one of this place. And the whole city was filled with confusion, and having caught this mighty one as well, this one is the name of a mighty one as well, so don't say it. This as well, males of Macedonia, Sha'al's company, in travel, they rushed with one accord into the theater. And when Sha'al would have entered unto the people, the Talmudim suffered him not. And certain of the chief of Asia which were his friends, sent unto him, desiring him that he would not adventure himself into the theater. Some therefore cried one thing, and some another, for the assembly was confused. And the more part knew not wherefore they were come together. And they drew Alexander out of the multitude, and the Yahudim putting him forward, and Alexander beckoned with the hand and would have made his defense unto the people. But when they knew that he was a Yahudi, all with one voice about the space of 2 hours cried out, Great is this mighty one of this place. And when the town clerk had appeased the people, he said, You people of this place, what man is there that how that knows not how that city of this place is a worshipper of the demoness this, and of the image which fell down from this mighty one. Seeing then that these things cannot be spoken against, you ought to be quiet and to do nothing rashly. For you have brought here these males, which are neither robbers of temples, nor yet blasphemers of your mighty ones. Wherefore, if this person and cross males or persons which are with him have a matter against any man, the law is open, and there are deputies. Let them implead one another. But if you inquire anything concerning matters, it shall be determined in a lawful assembly. For we are in danger to be called in question for this day's uproar. There be no cause whereby we might give an account of this concourse. And when he had thus spoken, he dismissed the assembly. Hallelujah. So as you can see, Kadashim, the apostles, they went through it as well, which means we shall also face these things in these last days. So as you can see, there's no agree to disagree in the book of Acts. The apostles did not do so. They try to resolve every matter. And if a matter is not resolved, then there will come separation. But the enemy, he doesn't want to separate all the time. Sometimes he likes to keep you in bondage. He likes to keep you, among the unrighteous so that he can corrupt your manners. Because that's what Yahuwah says. Evil communications corrupt right manners. Yahuwah says, have no fellowship with unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. So you got to walk away from people who do such. You got to turn away from people who operate this way. So the enemy does not want you to walk away. The enemy wants you to stay in bondage. Now let's jump to one more script before we go. Barak Yahuwah. One more script before we go. Rumamu Yahuwah. Let's go to Proverbs. And let's look at the 7 things that Yah hates. Proverbs 6, and let's read from verse 16 to 19. So here it is. These 6 things Yahuwah hates, yea, 7 are abomination unto him. A proud look, that's one. Proud look. A proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaks lies, and he that sows discord among the brethren. My son, guard your father's Torah, guard your father's commands, and forsake not the Torah of your mother. So these are the things that Yah hates. False witness that speaks lies, and he that sows discord among the brethren. Hallelujah, Rumamu Yahuwah. So you got to be careful in these last days, everyone. Let's jump to one last script, 2 Timothy. Let's go to 2 Timothy 3. Where is it? 2 Timothy 3, let's read from 1 to 7. Yahuwah talks about in these last days. This know also that in these last days perilous times shall come. For people shall be lovers of their own selves, not lovers of Yah, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unpure, without original or creational affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontent, fierce, despisers of those that are right, traitors, heady, high minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of Yah, having a form of regard for Yah, for Yahuwah, but denying the power of Yahuwah. From such turn away. From such turn away. Barak Yahuwah. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lay captive silly females laden with crimes, led away with diverse lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. They're always researching and studying, but they're never able to come to the knowledge of the truth, to acknowledge the truth, to accept it. So from such, Yahuwah says, yes, to do what? Turn away. Turn away from such. Barak Yahuwah. 2 Timothy 2, verse 2 Timothy 2, 3, verse 1 through to 7. We're in these last days, everyone. And we're seeing these people who are lovers of themselves, boasted, pride, blasphemous, disobedient, and all this nonsense. And Yahuwah is commanding us to turn away from such. Now, if you go to them and you share the truth with them, share the word with them, and they don't receive it, what does Yahuwah says? He says, shake the dust off your feet and move on. Move to the next city. Move to the next person. Because they have not rejected you. They have rejected Yahuwah. And anyone who rejects Yahuwah, he rejects them. Anyone who rejects you rejects Yahuwah. And anyone who rejects Yahuwah, he rejects them. So from such, turn away. And we saw what happens when Yahuwah rejects you. Look at what happened with King Saul. Because he rejected Yahuwah, Yahuwah rejected him. And what happened? An unclean spirit overcame him. And that's what's going to happen as well to people who reject Yahuwah. Yahuwah is going to allow the unclean spirits to overcome them. And they're going to be under a strong delusion, so much that they believe a lie to be the truth. So in their minds, they're convinced they're doing the right thing, or they're living a life pleasing unto Yahuwah. We see this in religion. There are so much people who are convinced right now that when they die, they're going into heaven and they're going to be in paradise and they shall reign with Yahuwah. There are so much people who are convinced right now, not only in religion, but even in this walk as well, that use the name of Yahuwah Yahusha. So from such, Yahuwah says, turn away, because you don't want that spirit to influence you, to corrupt you or anything. Hallelujah. That's why Yahuwah tells us to turn away. It will influence you. You cannot surround yourself with people who are not of right conscience or right standing. That spirit will influence you in some way, shape, or form. You got to turn away from people like that. Separate yourself from those surroundings, because you're leaving yourself unguarded and unprotected. And Yahuwah says to turn away. And if you don't obey it, you're being disobedient to Yahuwah. So you got to obey, got to turn away, got to walk away. They don't want to receive the truth. They don't want to repent. They don't want to change. Walk away. It's that simple. You don't got to stone them anymore like our ancestors used to. I mean, imagine if Yahuwah was telling you to stone them today. For some, it's so hard to walk away from people we love. Can you imagine if Yahuwah was saying, all right, stone them? Instead of walking away, stone them, kill them. Which would you rather to do, walk away or to stone them? He's giving you an easier option, just to walk away, not to kill them with stones, just to walk away. Please be obedient to Yahuwah. And don't let the enemy influence your emotions or tell you any lies or excuse for you to stay amongst them. Because he will try to convince you, come with some lies or something trying to get you to stay among these people. Do not believe it. Hallelujah. So as we can clearly see in the scriptures, the apostles did not agree to disagree. And we should not do this. That's a false doctrine trying to get you to accept lies, trying to get you to compromise your walk with Yahuwah, trying to get you to reject the truth and accept lies. You should not do so. Yahuwah says he is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth, not in spirit and in lies, in spirit and in truth. Allahu Yah, Rumamu Yahuwah. So if you're a part of any assembly or any channel that promotes and teaches nonsense, and you try to share it with them and they don't want to accept that, turn away, walk away from them. Because Yah says, let every man work out his own redemption with fear and trembling before Yah. Your leader is not going to work out your redemption for you. Your brother, your sister, your father, your mother, your children, your spouse, they will not work it out for you. You got to work it out for yourself. So choose you this day, whom shall you serve? Allahu Yah, Rumamu Yahuwah. So all esteemed to Abba Yahuwah, to the Rabba Yahuwah for your truth, to the Rabba for your love, to the Rabba for your word, for your Ruach Kadash, Rumamu Yahuwah, all esteemed to Abba Yahuwah, and Barak Yahuwah Yahusha. So Kadashim, continue to fight the right fight in these perilous times, in these last days. Endure the battles that you're going through. Do not give up. The enemy is trying to get you to give up. He's trying to get you to quit on Yahuwah. Please don't quit. Nothing in the world is worth it. It's not worth it. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and loses his own soul? This life that we're living is temporary. It's not forever. Some of us will not live to see 80, 90. From 90, let's start from 100. Some of us will not live to see 100, 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30. We don't know when Yahuwah shall say, all right, you have accomplished your assignment. Now it's time to call you home. But what if it's a case that you have not accomplished it? You don't want that to happen as well, because once you die, there's no repentance in the pit, in the grave. There's no repentance. There's no chance for you to get a second try at it. And that's it. It's a wrap. It's done. It's over. So use the time that you have now to accomplish your assignments and to please Yahuwah, so that when that time comes, whenever that time is, and Yahuwah says, all right, get your house in order, I'm going to put you to sleep. You are ready and you have accomplished all your assignments given by Yahuwah. Allahu Yah. All esteemed to Abba Yahuwah, Rumamu Yahuwah. We give Yah all the praise for this beautiful day that he has made and given unto us to keep as a feast day and a rest day, to have Kadash, assembly, Kadash, fellowship, Rumamu Yahuwah. So, to everyone that has supported this channel, trust me, we greatly, greatly appreciate you. We know the enemy is at work. He's trying to not really ban the truth, but he's trying to shadow ban it, which means it's hard for the truth to be promoted. It's hard for majority of people to see the real truth. People that promote, the real undiluted truth, it's not popular because the enemy is not going to give it that platform. He's not going to allow it to gather thousands and thousands of views or millions of views and all that stuff. Look at YouTube today. Look at the nonsense that are promoted on YouTube. Look at how much views they have. Now try to look up for a truth video and look at the views. It's a whole lot different. The enemy is not going to allow that video to get that platform to reach a lot of persons. Facebook as well, TikTok as well. When you go out into the streets, it's the same thing as well. He's going to present people that shall all had to experience. That's going to stir up confusion in the camp. So we got to continue to push. We got to continue to fight against censorship and shadow banning on social medias and even in real life. Allahu Yah. So your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. We appreciate you so, so much, Rumamu Yahuwah. And even though I just asked Yahuwah to Barakata Ushamarata, which means to show respect, favor unto you, and to guard you when you're going out and you're coming in. Allahu Yah. This is Watchman Azar Yahu, and I'm signing out. All esteemed to Abba Yahuwah, Rumamu Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah, who is Yahusha. Shabbat Shalom, beloved family. Barak Yahuwah.